Hey, Love Your Life fam. It's Crystal and Andre Holland.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, looking forward to hearing from you. To find us, you can check us out on
Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Stitcher. We look forward to hearing from you all.
Yeah, we came a long way, and that's what the songs say. And I can do all things. I can do all things. Yeah, I can do all things. Yeah,
Hey, Love Your Life family. Welcome back to another Loving Your Life podcast. This is Sis Crystal.
What's going on, fam? It's your brother Andre. We're excited to be back at you.
Yes, indeed, with another discussion about loving your life. How you doing this morning, baby?
Hey, it's an awesome morning. Doing really well. Got some stuff I was looking for. I found, just purchased an item that I really was looking forward to in regards to my vacation time. For those who don't know, I love to fish, so I needed a new motor. So found that. So yeah, it's a great day.
Good deal. Yeah, I concur with you. Today's, it's been great. Had a good workout in and a good time conversing with you and I, having some time together, and then the kids.
Had a little breakfast time with just my baby, just me and her.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? While the kids doing their thing. And just a little still away from the hustle and bustle and just shared breakfast together. So it's been cool, man.
Definitely great discussion over some great food.
For sure. Hey, it's always nice when we get a chance to just truly get away, just you and I. Breakfast, just take our time, relax. So it's been a great day thus far, and I know it's only gonna get better.
Yes, indeed. So just sitting and thinking about continue as we navigate through each day, looking at all that is continuing to occur in our nation, America. Obviously, here in the state of Arizona, just continuous spike in the COVID numbers, and
for sure, huge spike in COVID numbers. But not even just in Arizona. Obviously, we live here, but quite a few states spike in cases. Florida, Texas, among others, California, and it was crazy because about 2 to 3 months ago, the talk was, in the summertime, it's not going to be as bad here in Arizona,
right,
because they didn't think it could stand the virus. Many people thought it wasn't going to be able to stand the heat. Well, we found out that's not true. The numbers here have been steadily rising. And so at the end of the day, man, who knows how this thing is going to turn out. But at the end of the day, I know for us, again, we do all that we can do to stay safe, use wisdom, but still have to live, So.
Absolutely. Continuing to, be creative. And I get it, man. Sometimes it's like, I just want to go here, go there. But continuing to be creative and empowering our kids to be creative. And we're all the more better for it.
For sure, babe. I totally agree. Taking it one day at a time. So kind of what's on your heart? What are some things you've been thinking about?
I've been just really sitting and thinking of how powerful humans are and our ability to help each other through incredibly difficult times or moments in our lives. And I've been sitting and thinking about the power of an authentic apology. A wholehearted, real apology when you've done something to hurt someone, or you may have misunderstood somebody when they were trying to convey something to you. And the ability and the power to sit back and truly hear somebody's heart and then extend an apology when it's needed. I just think it's crucial, especially if you are doing life with somebody you plan on doing life with for a very long time. It's vital part of continuing to develop your relationships and leaving room to continuing to grow, and also acknowledging, hey, I messed up. There's power in that, in acknowledging. It doesn't feel good, but it's very powerful for the recipient of the apology, as well as if you're the one that needs to give the apology. It's a very powerful act that you can execute for yourself when it's done authentically.
Well, that even makes me think, because the bottom line, regardless of the relationship, there's always going to be conflict. And with that said, there's often times where someone may need to apologize. And in spite of whatever the dynamics of the relationship is, whether you're single, divorced, married, it doesn't matter. We come into contact with people, and then at times people get offended for something we may have said or done. And when necessary, and I want to I'll talk about that in a minute, but when necessary, no, I totally agree. I think it's showing maturity, being able to apologize when you're wrong. That's a part of maturity. Unfortunately, I've learned and witnessed, I don't know over how many times, but just a lot of people struggle to apologize.
Yeah.
Even when they've offended someone or they've done something truly wrong to damage or hurt someone's emotions or damage the relationship, which is weird, but I've found in my lifetime a lot of people struggle to apologize at the cost of a great relationship. So I agree. I think there is tremendous power in the power of an authentic, apology. And when you mention authentic, obviously that's an apology that's real, not just someone saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," really don't mean it.
Right.
They're just saying it to go through the motions, just to say they did it. But you're right. The power of an authentic apology, when you know it's coming from a right place, a place of sincerity, I think that is so powerful because it shows sincerity. Mm-hmm. Meaning, when someone has done something to offend you or hurt you, and when they authentically apologize, they're showing sincerity, meaning the relationship does matter to me. I realize what I did was wrong, and I want to make this right. My apology. Taking ownership, I think is huge. And with that said, one of the things in addition to why it's so powerful, because it shows that the other person who was offended, their feelings are valid.
Right.
Meaning it shows that the person who offended you is really sincere and have an understanding that you matter, you're valid, your feelings are valid. And so I think I concur, babe. I think there is a lot of power in apology. And I hope more people would learn to just be upfront and apologize when necessary.
Absolutely. Saying I'm sorry, I don't know if you would look at it like this, but for our audience, it's a gift to the one that you've offended. Why? Because it can help free the person from toxic emotions such as deep pain and bitterness and toxic anger. If you sit and think about something that you may have said or done that has hurt someone, and it's obvious, that they've been offended, or you may have had a conversation and their tone or their body language has changed after that conversation. Clearly, something is hurting them. Now, yes, they have a responsibility to open their mouths and to convey that something's wrong, but just showing that you care, and you see that something's off and saying, "Hey, ever since we talked, you kind of seem off." And if they need time to still process, then so be it. But when you say "I'm sorry" and you mean it, it's really extending a gift to this person, because when you live with somebody and you don't say sorry and you know that you've done or said something to hurt them, even if it wasn't your intent, you have to drink from that cup of bitterness. You have to drink from that cup of anger. And you could extend the gift for them to pour it out, to empty it out by saying, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, well, and again, because that apology, when you apologize, it really is showing that the relationship is important enough to the other person to do everything they can to make things right.
Right.
Which puts a value or a premium on the relationship. It's not something that just fly by night. And again, like you mentioned, when you're in a relationship with someone and you don't apologize when you need to, you have to drink from that cup of bitterness. And unfortunately, some people would rather walk around on eggshells and just try to ignore it or act like it's no big deal versus dealing with the issue straight up. This is what I did was wrong. I know I shouldn't have done it, brother. I was wrong, man. Forgive me. And look to heal and amend and move forward. And that's the mature response. But some people, they just don't handle it that way. But I think the power in that authentic apology really goes back down to, hey, you're important enough to me that I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to let go of my pride, and I'm going to take ownership of what I did to cause the offense to you. And most people can work with that when people are upfront, when they're honest and look to move forward. I think the issue is what makes it so detrimental when people try to minimize their wrongful behavior, ignore it, or say, "Oh, that's just how I am. It ain't no big deal. I didn't mean it."
Right.
That's trying to pass the buck versus taking ownership And some people are so hypocritical. A lot of them will talk about taking ownership, but when it comes down to them taking ownership of things that they're doing wrong, ain't no big deal. I was just playing, which is hypocritical. Let's listen. Taking ownership goes both ways. When you offend me, okay, you take ownership just as versus if I do something to offend you, I take ownership of my behavior. So again, it definitely needs to go both ways. And with that, the power that I really think about is the power to heal and move forward in wholeness between the two people. That's why I think the power is so great. It gives you the ability, and it doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight, but it does open up the door for access for healing to occur so that you can move forward.
Just to concur and piggyback off of what you said, you mentioned it earlier, it validates the reality that the offended party's feelings make sense. And then when you apologize, it creates the space to heal versus struggling to make sense of it all.
Right.
And so when when you don't extend that apology to somebody, you have to understand that if you're the one that needs the apology, or if you're the one that needs to give the apology, that person is just off trying to make sense of what they're feeling, because what they're feeling isn't validated by your apology. And that's huge.
And I think that's really, that is huge, because it really, again, it puts a premium on it. It draws attention to, hey, because oftentimes people they're quick to try to maximize or promote everything that they do right.
Man.
And the things that's going well and what they're doing right. But a lot of those same people try to minimize what they do wrong, or their shortcomings, or areas that they missed the mark.
Right.
And we all miss the mark.
Absolutely.
But the fact that you can be upfront, and just like many people like to talk about the things they're doing well and promote that, but when they miss the mark, can they say, you know what, my bad, brother. Take ownership. So for sure, I think it goes hand in hand. There is so much power in it. And I want to stress for those people, because all of us are in relationships, all types of relationships with people, business relationships, professional relationships, family relationships. You name it, we're in relationships. And one of the things that grieves me is when you see great relationships go sour or go south strictly because someone won't humble themselves enough to admit when they're wrong and apologize and take steps to restore the relationship versus, I ain't no big deal, get over it.
Right.
And I've seen many a good relationship go south just because someone wouldn't humble themselves and just admit when they were wrong. And it's unfortunate, but it happens.
I want to put a pin here, just sitting and thinking about our development systems. There were certain things, God bless them, no ill thoughts or feelings towards any of the people that played a part in shaping me. But there were some things that I knew I did not want to multiply when it came to being a wife, a mother. There were just certain things I did not want my husband or my children to experience or ever feel. Now, obviously, you can't control everything. You can't control how people take stuff.
Right.
But one of the things that I feel like we've really, really been intentional about in our relationship is acknowledging when we're wrong. And there's not enough time to really go and discuss everything that we've had to endure. But our ability to hear, to be quiet, listen, and extend apology where it's needed, I believe has been one of the major anchors in our life and in our marriage.
Oh, without a doubt. I 100% totally agree. I sit and look at it, over 18 years now in marriage, but for sure, being able to admit when we were wrong, admit maybe when our tone wasn't the best when we were trying to deliver something, just being able to admit it, because that's a part of being human. But it shows, again, I have enough respect for you and love for you to take ownership of my behaviors that contributed to negative emotions that I may have rose up in you because of how I treated you or what I said, and vice versa. You being able to admit when you've said or done things that, you felt you should apologize for. That truly has helped our relationship, because it's actions to what we say. It's action that is saying, You matter to me. You're important. I love you. I value you. And with that value, I value enough by showing and by humbling myself when necessary to admit when I'm wrong. That's for sure helped us. And it's even allowed our trust to grow because we understand that we're safe with one another. We are going to miss the mark. There's things that we may even offend one another. The reality of it is, and not trying to, it's just, our perception or our perspective. And so sometimes our tone may come off sharp. It may come off critical, and we may not even realize that we have offended one another. But the fact that we can be upfront and talk about it, and then we can each individually take ownership of our own behaviors, and when necessary, because just because someone's offended don't mean you have to apologize.
Right.
But when necessary, meaning we're truly able to take a step back, look at what we did to in regards to the situation, and then when necessary, apologize for things that we did that was wrong. And so that has strengthened our relationship over the years, and I totally concur. That's been a huge plus for us and has helped us in marriage as far as longevity is concerned.
Absolutely. And this conversation is a mature conversation.
Yeah.
This is not a conversation for the immature, period. Because when you sit and you think about some of the stuff that falls out of your mouth when you are emotionally imbalanced, you don't have any, no filter. You just say whatever comes to your mind. And then, you feel like that's what they get. They shouldn't have did this, shouldn't have did that. I mean, if you really take the time to think about that thought and how abusive it is, it really speaks to the lack of love that or not understanding what love is truly, and so like I said, it's a mature conversation. This is a conversation that may cut, it hurt, but at the end of the day, you're investing your time, your life, your resources into other people, and you want it to be meaningful, and you want to be able to sup and to eat from the fruit of the seeds that you plant in people. And so you have to ask yourself, what am I planting? What am I demonstrating? And are you expecting things from your kids that you don't model? And so it's a deep conversation.
Yeah. So what are some things you would say? What are some areas or some things that you would say that keeps people from being able to give an authentic apology?
Definitely pride.
Okay.
I think sometimes people associate saying sorry as being weak, and that there's no truth to that. And again, it goes back to, I think, your development system, your experiences, and if you were shamed for wanting to say sorry, so there's a lot that impacts it. So I think pride is number one.
So pride.
Another one I would say is looking weak, or feeling like you're giving them a pass if you say sorry. Well, if I say sorry, then that gives them a pass. Versus looking at it from a balanced lens, being able to see it from their lens as well as yours, and then meet in the middle.
Well, I think even when you say some people fail to admit when they're wrong or fail to apologize because they don't want to appear weak, which goes back to just a false sense of weakness. It's actually a strength when you can acknowledge that you're wrong. Even if you're the leader of a group or an organization, or you're running the organization. A sign of strength is not making mistakes, because we all fall short, but a sign of strength is truly being able to admit when you are wrong. But you're absolutely right. I do believe some people, they feel because of their position, their title, or them being in charge, they fail to acknowledge when they're wrong because they look at it as a sign of weakness.
Yeah, definitely. Saying I'm sorry is a gift to yourself. It helps us to see ourselves objectively. It develops self-respect, maturity, because it positions you to see where you need to modify your behavior that you project that affects somebody else.
Well, and I think a big thing too is I want to kind of differentiate, because obviously an apology is, an acknowledgement of an offense or a failure. Mm-hmm. But just because someone is offended, now the other side of that coin, just because someone is offended does not mean you owe them an apology.
Right.
So we're talking about when you truly have done something wrong that caused detrimental a detrimental. It was a detrimental failure of the relationship. Let's say where you lied, you betrayed someone, where you actually did something that caused an offense.
Right.
Because the reality is, on the flip side of that coin, some people, especially in the time we live in today, some people get offended just because you're telling them the truth. And so there is a difference now, and that's part of wisdom. Mm-hmm. I can tell you the truth without yelling at you, screaming, cursing. And if you get offended by me telling you the truth, then at the end of the day, that's not my problem, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm telling you the truth. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm going to be mindful of, where we are and how I say it. But at the end of the day, truth is truth. And so I'm not going to apologize to someone if I offended them because I told the truth and they didn't like what I had to say. Right. That's their problem.
Right.
So we're not talking about people getting offended when you're doing what is right. Okay.
Can you give an example?
All right. So, like, for instance, I just remember I had to address a particular employee on the job who was under my supervision for doing something that was, it wasn't it wasn't an offense worthy of firing them, but it definitely was an offense that should not have occurred. Mm-hmm. And so use wisdom. Talk to the person professionally, had someone else there, basically, just kind of following protocol, and just brought it up to their attention, very professional about what happened and what needs to happen moving forward and how, this was against the policy. And the person got offended.
Man.
Got really offended, got upset, and was acting as if they were above correction. And so even though they didn't like it, they got offended, I had to let them know at the end of the day, well, you're offended. That is your problem, mm-hmm. because what I'm bringing to your attention is strictly policy.
Okay.
And if you don't like it, then that's something you have to deal with. But again, my tone, I was mindful. I wasn't yelling at them. I wasn't disrespecting. I was just bringing up something that needed to be addressed. And my goal was to address it. They take ownership, commit to doing things the right way per policy and move forward.
Right.
But it was kind of caught me off guard. They began getting upset with me because I brought it up, which at the end of the day, that was their problem. So again, we're definitely not advocating for you to apologize just because someone get offended. But the purpose of an authentic apology is when you truly have done something or you're the source of something that was done that was really wrong, being able to apologize. But the flip side of that coin now, when you're standing for truth and you're doing right and someone gets offended, just because their offense doesn't mean that you have to apologize. And so I just want to make sure, I kind of differentiate that, because oftentimes, especially in today's time, people don't want to hear truth.
That's huge. And being mindful, just like that, you said a lot of people don't want to hear truth. And depending on who it is, their personality and what you're dealing with, there's some folks out there that can try to manipulate and flip it like you've done something, like you're in the wrong because you spoke truth and you're hitting or addressing issues that they've been able to or allowed to get away with. Yeah. And so you really have to pull back, have wise counsel around you, because you don't owe anybody an apology that just doesn't want to move past their systems or their personality or their behaviors, period. Just behaviors that people have learned to adapt to and make excuses for. And so, no, you know.
Yeah, but again, back to the original comment of, the power of an authentic apology. So when an apology is due, I'm going to stress to everyone, when an apology is really due, meaning you realize that you've done something that was detrimental to the relationship. Be the bigger person, because at the end of the day, this is the mindset that I've always taken. Regardless of if someone acts this way towards me, when I know that I've done something wrong that was detrimental, and it could be it was on accident, I wasn't thinking about it, but whatever. But when I take the time to really reflect on it and look at it like, man, Dre, you was wrong. I always seek to look to make amends by offering an authentic apology, because that's the type of person I am. I want you to understand, like, listen, you're important. I value you. I was wrong, taking ownership. And so I've found that that's just the type of person I am. Now, I've had to do that even though many times it wasn't reciprocated. But again, me offering an authentic apology is not to appease someone else. It's just, this is how I handle conflict or handle areas that I fall short in. And at the end of the day, yes, I would like people to do the same towards me if they've done something that was truly detrimental against me. But when they don't, that's their issue. I can't get hung up on it. But I do think that speaks to how close we can be, though.
That's good.
So, and I'm going to stress this for someone, because you're not a doormat. Again, people can offend you and do wrong. And if they fail to acknowledge what they did wrong and apologize, you can still move on and live your life in health and keep them at a distance, or just, they may not ever be as close as they once were. Your health and your strength is not predicated upon them apologizing to you. But I do believe that depending on whoever truly offended you by doing a detrimental act, their inability or their unwillingness to apologize when they're wrong, that should be the springboard or the balance in which you weigh, can I continue this same type of relationship with them? If someone shows you that they're unwilling or they're unable to admit when they're wrong, to apologize when they've done wrong to you, that should be the true test to say, hey, this is a person that I don't have to hate them. I can forgive them, but this is a person that I cannot walk closely with because they cannot take ownership of their behaviors and what they did that caused me damage.
And it's gosh, you just said a whole lot.
Yeah, I think that's, the end of the day. And so some people, they try to bend over backwards, and I'm trying to please them. I'm trying to listen. If someone has committed a detrimental act against you, I don't care who it is, you can love them and forgive them and still move on with your life. You don't have to walk around with hate and anger. But that does not mean that they still have to hold that same space in your life.
They don't deserve it.
Right. And so it's okay to say, okay, you've shown me who you are. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm not going to stay hurt. I'm not going to stay wounded. I'm going to heal and move on. But because of who you are and because of your unwillingness or inability to admit when you're wrong and apologize, you will never hold that place with me. Now, never is a strong word. Maybe down the road, if there's some true repentance down the road. But for now, until you can show that you can admit when you're wrong, that space that you once held, it won't be the same.
And it's crucial that you really grasp and understand that, because that's really setting boundaries. And setting boundaries does not fall under the category of unforgiveness. Because, I've seen people say, well, they just won't let me in. They just won't let me do this because they're walking around here bitter and unforgiven. Versus, no, I've just learned. I've learned who you are, and you will not occupy that space. Yeah. I'm not going to be abused. I'm not going to be under on the other side of your foolishness. And so I'm setting a boundary here. So setting a boundary versus unforgiveness. They are two completely different things.
No, that's very powerful. Very, very powerful. And mature. Because that is part of loving your life.
Yes.
You putting a premium of value on your life. That you're not going to let someone else's foolishness cause you to make you think that you need to let your guard down or let them in a space that they don't deserve to occupy. That is phenomenal. And I want to stress, if that's you, whoever may be listening, if that's you, where you struggle with setting healthy boundaries, love yourself enough to say, when people have shown themselves to who they are, when they've, abused you, belittled you, ridiculed you, just truly have committed detrimental acts against the relationship, you can love them and forgive them and still set a healthy boundary. Love yourself enough. Loving your life, that's the goal. Teaching you to love yourself enough and have an understanding of your inner worth and who you are. And with that, when you truly embrace that, you set healthy boundaries so you don't allow people over and over and over and over again to occupy that same space and keep betraying you over and over and over again.
Yeah.
That's showing a lack of self-worth. It's showing a lack of inner love for yourself. And it's detrimental to your well-being.
That's huge. Just again, going back to the power of an authentic apology. for those, husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, co-workers, parent to child, the parties involved have a sense of security in knowing when mistakes happen, they can be repaired when you say, I'm sorry. I mean, that's huge. Relationships are more likely to experience repair when you're capable of reflecting on your behaviors that are damaging to each other while doing your best to set things right. That's such a beautiful process. And again, it's challenging because, you gotta swallow your pride, humble yourself. But again, if you only look at the discomforts of it, you're losing out on how much it is a gift to them as well as to yourself, self-respect, and your own maturity. So again, this is a mature conversation that if you choose to take the steps and, hey, you know what, I'm going to love my life. I'm going to love my marriage. I'm going to love my relationships. And part of that is humbling yourself, swallowing pride, and extending an apology when it is needed. Because why? It heals relationships and it rebuilds trust.
And I think this may be even more difficult, but I think there are times too where you may need to confront someone and say, listen, you owe me an apology. Now, they may never do it. They may never give an apology. But sometimes people try to act like everything is okay and they just want to move on and just sweep it under the rug. It is okay too to say, you know what? Hey, we're in a covenant relationship, but this is what you did. You owe me an apology. And because they wasn't mature enough to come to you, you may have to be the one to say, listen, you owe me an apology, and this is why. Now it's on them. You've confronted them straight up. See how they respond. You can't make them give an apology. You can move on without one. But if a detrimental act was committed against you, they didn't give you an apology, and you confronted them saying you owe me an apology, and they refuse, that should be the place where you limit what type of relationship you want to have with that person, because they've shown you that you cannot trust them with a tight relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Because as you said that, you go to the one that has offended you, you've asked for an apology, or you have conveyed, you owe me an apology. If they give you the apology, you have to truly discern, is it real? Because a lot of times people will also apologize because they want to move on, or they want something from you that they're benefiting from you. And they just want, say whatever they have to say so that they can continue to benefit from you, whatever that looks like. And so at the end of the day, it's not real.
Yeah. No, that's good for sure. Hey, well, this has been real. Listen, I hope this helps someone be able to move forward and truly set some healthy boundaries, loving your life enough to set healthy boundaries. Babe, tell them where they can check us out at.
You can check us out on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode. We love you.
Peace.
Shout to the city that raised me. Shout to the people that made me. I'm from the 80s. I don't think mumbling wavy. I grew up black on Jay-Z. Maybe I'm crazy. I ain't been wondering lately. Feel like it's there for the taking. Feel like I'm good with the changes. Know who I am. And that's the most dangerous state.
Hey, Love Your Life fam. It's Crystal and Andre Holland.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, looking forward to hearing from you. So to find us, you can check us out on
Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Stitcher. We look forward to hearing from you all.